know who lives in a pineapple under the sea?
SpongeBob SquarePants!
SpongeBob is considered one of the best animated shows in history, which I wholeheartedly agree with. I've watched it since I was younger, and I never saw it. It has perfectly balanced humor that anyone of any age can enjoy, including my grandpa. I showed it to him, and he loves SpongeBob. It has great humor, it has amazing writing, and the characters are top-notch. They're memorable, they're lovable, and they all have their own personalities that make the show what it is. But it sucks now, and that pains me. I went back and watched some of the last 5 seasons, and oh my gosh, it's like tailored towards Gen Alpha, Goldfish, TikTok brain kids. Like, dude, it's bad, and I want to talk about it, and so I'm gonna make a video about it. Now, to understand how SpongeBob first declined, we need to understand what made it so great. We're not gonna spend a whole lot of time on this, but we gotta give some backstory and just reminisce. It's just nostalgic because this is the best show ever. The first 3 seasons are widely considered the golden age of SpongeBob, which, as much of a SpongeBob fanatic as I am, I actually didn't know that's what they called the first 3 seasons, but I wholeheartedly agree. The first 3 seasons are by far the best seasons out of any one of them. 90% of the famous moments and memes came from these 3 seasons. Many moments including rectangles! Krusty Krab pizza for you and me. I didn't even sing that. I don't know, why did I do that? Chocolate. And then of course the fun song is in these seasons, and that's not even scratching the surface of the amazing moments that everybody remembers from these. There are countless other ones, and I want to put a montage up there, but you probably don't want that, so fine. Let me slow down. I know I have to backpedal a little bit. Let's go back to the golden age. Let's talk about the writing, because the writing in SpongeBob, especially in the golden age, was one of the best writing ever, especially for an animated show. But even for a lot of the very large live action shows, the writing here is even better storytelling and even better character development than most of the shows out there. Writing is everything in a show or movie. Without it, the entire thing falls apart, no matter how good the other aspects are. And yes, the writers actually do things. I don't know if you knew that. The guys who actually like touching pencils, pencils, number 2 pencils, those weirdos, they do stuff. They actually do. I'd consider myself a writer. The better writing that I have in a video, the better the video turns out, despite the editing, despite the delivery. The writing is the fundamental part of it. And SpongeBob nailed it. Take The Office, for example. They know how to pace things in a unique way, so it's not super fast paced, and it's not normal. They have it unique, but it's not too slow as to be boring, but it's slow enough where you actually feel like you're getting the authentic experience and you're in the room with them. It's perfect writing, and that pacing is actually due to writing. They know how to include enough jokes to make you consistently laugh, but each and every joke actually has a purpose and a place to be there, and each and every joke is tailored towards everyone's personality, and great writing did that. I think one of the greatest things, if not the greatest thing that I admire about SpongeBob, is that all of the conflict and all of the dialogue is directly derived from your character's unique personalities. But despite all of these observations that I made that were stored inside my massive brain, I wanted to go and actually get some feasible examples that I could talk about, specifically go and watch SpongeBob. I'm not even gonna play it up. It was just an excuse to watch SpongeBob. But on the subject of actually building personalities and good writing, let's look at Pizza Delivery, my favorite episode. This is one of the best examples of how SpongeBob and Squidward play off of each other. Their personalities directly conflict, but they also have to work together in the end. During the entire episode, SpongeBob's top priority is just delivering a pizza, something that just doesn't get found in any kind of employee, and then Squidward more accurately represents a Domino's worker. He just does not care at all, and then that ends up conflicting both of them back and forth to each other the entire episode, making it extremely hilarious, but also a conflict in their desires, and they both have their own personal agenda for the entire thing. Squidward wants to get home. That's his whole objective. SpongeBob wants to do the same, but he wants to deliver the pizza. You had inciting incident after inciting incident after inciting incident that kept changing the storyline up. They would lose the road, then they'd find a tornado, then they get thrown up into the air, then they fight about the pizza. SpongeBob tries to hitchhike, Squidward saves him. There's lots of conflict that happens throughout the entire thing, and then you have this massive payoff at the end. The ending to this episode is one of the most satisfying in the entire show's history, making it my favorite episode of the entire show. This YouTuber pointed out in his video that basically a lot of the episodes follow some sort of format where Squidward and SpongeBob get into some sort of conflict. Their pessimism and optimism end up conflating with each other, but in the end, usually SpongeBob ends up being right despite the outcome of circumstances. Despite Squidward being so pessimistic, SpongeBob's optimism usually ends up rubbing off on him in some sort of way. But to switch it up sometimes, they do this great thing where instead of SpongeBob roughing off on Squidward, Squidward ends ends up rubbing off on SpongeBob. So SpongeBob has this moment of like depression or cynicism at the end, and then you see some sort of change in characterization that gets you a little more glimpse into SpongeBob. It happens here in Pizza Delivery when they actually deliver the pizza to the guy. He gets angry that they didn't have his Diet Dr. Kelp. SpongeBob gets really depressed and he ends up crying on the floor, and then Squidward actually stands up for him, something that we never see happen. And so it makes this like massive payoff at the end. I don't want to get too nerdy into it, but it is really cool when you go and watch it because it's something like, oh, you don't normally see that. And it just makes great episodes. That's how you build good characters. That's how you have good writing. And writing did all of that. Now, how did this end up going downhill so quickly? I mean, SpongeBob is at its all-time high. It has the highest viewership of anyone, and it still holds that today just because of its sheer size at its peak. So how did the idiots screw it up? For the next thing, I want to look at Band Geeks. Band Geeks is apparently the most widely recognized as the best episode. Apparently, it's most people's favorites because it's a really good showcase of Squidward actually somehow achieving these great dreams, and the performance at the end is amazing. Basically, if you don't remember exactly what Band Geeks is, Squidward gets a bunch of people together to try to perform for this orchestra. Basically, he's going up against his rival, Squilly and Fancy Son, you know, Unibrow. And he gets these random people together who are just completely incompetent.
Is mayonnaise an instrument?
No, Patrick, mayonnaise is not an instrument. Horseradish is not an instrument either.
And Squidward has to try to lead them and try to prepare and try to practice with them and teach them how to actually do music when he himself doesn't even really know, let's be honest. But then everything is kind of falling apart, and then right at the end, SpongeBob is able to kind of come in and really get everything together and put on an amazing performance for Squidward. They end up performing in like, what do they call it? The Bubble Bowl. It's like a big stadium, and it's great. It's great because you have this great struggle and storytelling throughout the entire thing. And then you have this massive payoff at the end, which is their big performance that is supposed to, you know, that like knocks Squilliam, Fancy Son, and his orchestra. It just completely humiliates them, and it's great. The whole thing is just well made. And to understand how the show ended up sucking for the past 6 seasons, we have to contrast this episode, Band Geeks, with another one called Upwards. Upwards starts off with everyone making fun of Squidward's terrible clarinet skills. He basically takes a break from his work. He goes out into Jellyfish Fields. He starts playing it for a little bit of a break, and everybody hates it. Then some really rich, successful lady gets mistaken to thinking that his music is actually good. Squidward gets mistakenly roped up into professional work with this lady, and then the entirety of the episode is just different examples of him being rich and still sucking at his job. Basically, he's extremely rich, he's extremely successful, and the entire episode is a bunch of examples of that. You have different shots of him actually practicing, you have different shots of him actually just being a jerk and then showing him like cool things, and it's just the entire thing like that. You have these little montages of like different animations and stuff that are all fast and very dopamine hitting, dispersed throughout the video. And then in between those little animations and montages, you have these actual interactions with other people to showcase his lack of skill and overflow of jerk. And that's the entire episode. And then right off, the whole payoff at the end isn't that a big performance, and it's not even a proper resolution. The lady apparently just had a jellyfish stuck in her ears, so the vibration from the jellyfish was somehow altering the noise to make her think SpongeBob's clarinet was actually sounding good. It was the stupidest storyline ever, but then they find that out. She takes the jellyfish off of her ear, realizes the Squidward is terrible at his job, and then fires him, and then boom, his career is over and his whole life gets ruined again. It's this entire thing, but the entire thing is basically just example after example. There's no storytelling. There's a great South Park episode, and I don't watch South Park, but I just learned about storytelling from this, but it properly explains how to tell a story. Basically, the South Park episode, when most people try to tell a story like this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened, when really a story should go, this happened, but this happened, therefore this happened. But sadly, this happened. And it's great because you actually get to do connections between all the things to kind of make this emotional roller coaster. And the more you can do that and play to that role, then the better your writing and therefore your storytelling is. Going back to Band Geeks, they had that this, therefore this, but this, sadly this. They had this great storytelling, this banter, this struggle, and then finally at the end you have this big payoff. Whereas with this, it's this, then this, then this, then this, and then at the end there is no payoff. It's just like, that's your whole plot change. It's just right at the end, oh, I guess he was never good at his job. Let's just take that away from him. That's their whole plot change. It doesn't happen before that. There is no inciting incident before that. It's just the one inciting incident at the beginning. It rides that roller coaster up, and it's very anticlimactic. It's just example after example, and then right at the end they say, well, I guess we're done with the episode now, so we'll end it. And it's not really an actual resolution. It's just like something happens and like in 30 seconds, the whole thing closes out. You don't really have a really good resolution. Going back to pizza delivery, you have this properly written ending that actually ends in a great resolution and it has a big payoff. Band Geeks also has a great payoff that is an actual resolution of the entire story leading up to that point. But the new seasons just have the lead up, then no payoff. They just end the episode immediately. There's no gratification at the end for any of it. A great example of incredible storytelling is taking a story that's very simple but somehow making it extremely interesting through storytelling. And Hooky from the Golden Age, I believe season 2, is a perfect example of that. And we're going to contrast it with another episode after this. So the good thing about SpongeBob is that there's inciting incident after inciting incident after inciting incident, and every single one of those is always caused by a different personality. It's always caused by quirks and agendas and desires that belong to each person because of their uniqueness and personality. That's what makes it so great, and I think I've talked about it already enough. Hooky has the exact same thing. Mr. Krabs warned SpongeBob. SpongeBob knew he shouldn't, but Patrick would convince him to anyways. He would get in trouble with Mr. Krabs. The cycle continues twice throughout the episode, and in the end, SpongeBob learns his lesson, and Patrick does as well, at least in a can of tuna.
Oh, does somebody have a can opener?
Throughout the entire thing, there's a perfect demonstration of everybody's different personalities and their roles in the whole show and how they interact with each other. It perfectly aids in the storytelling, and then you actually have these inciting incidents that play with your mind like an actual mystery, but you don't have to over dramatize everything. It keeps you interested because it's just good writing. They don't have to include a bunch of emotion. They don't have to include a bunch of explosions and screams, attention grabbing things. They just write a good story, and that's what makes it a good show. They're not too focused on other things. They're focused on writing good and making good stories. People think you don't need to write well or make good stories for kids shows because kids will just be entertained anyways, and they don't understand the sophistication of it all. But the fact of the matter is, humans like stories. Humans are drawn to stories, and if you can tell a good one, you can keep someone's attention. You don't need fast cuts and fast-paced editing and explosions and overly animated facial expressions, gross out visuals to keep someone's attention. All you need is storytelling. That's what SpongeBob lost along the way. They grabbed someone's attention in the very much wrong way. They sacrificed what made SpongeBob great for a sort of adaptation to new kids' minds. Now I want to contrast what was so great about Hooky with another episode called Bad Luck Bob. In the same way that Hooky had a lot of inciting incidents and conflicts between the characters, so did Bad Luck Bob. Basically, the storyline of Bad Luck Bob is that he loses his lucky tie clip, which apparently he has really bad luck if he doesn't have this tie clip. If he has the tie clip, he has good luck, and therefore his life goes well. At the same time, we find out that if SpongeBob has good luck, Squidward has bad luck, and if Squidward has good luck, then SpongeBob has bad luck. Now this is an amazing concept for an episode, and therefore should be very compelling, but the storytelling just isn't the same. Just like Upward, you just have this general storyline and then example, no real storytelling, and then a small payoff at the end. Bad Luck Bob has a little bit of better payoff at the end than Upward does, but you don't really have any real storytelling throughout the entire thing anyway. Also, all of the humor is basically just out of place, out of just random little moments that aren't really witty or funny or cleverly written. The premise of the story is actually very similar to Lost Identity. In Lost Identity, basically he loses his name tag, and the entire thing is a story about him going and looking for it. And it's funny because it's kind of like if you ever watched the movie Groundhog's Day, where he basically, Bill Murray is the actor, and during the entire movie he's basically reliving the exact same day on repeat every single day, and every single day he's doing something different, trying to break the cycle. Eventually he gives up and blah blah blah. And it's not the same thing in Lost Identity, but the same thing happens where they have to reenact every day, so it kind of feels the same. And during the entire thing they're trying to find his identity. It's great storytelling from such a simple concept, and then contrast that with Bad Luck Bob, where he loses his tie pin. Again, everything's going wrong, and he's having to try to retrace everything, find it. He's trying to have to live his life with all this bad luck, but they don't pull it off nearly the same. You can see the obvious decline and difference in quality between the two episodes, and it's a perfect case of if you take a very similar concept and put it in the Golden Age and also make it in the newer season, they're completely different. You see an obvious decline in quality and a terrible decline in story writing and just the characters in general. Another great part of SpongeBob is that they have a lot of adventures. A lot of the things are just based in Bikini Bottom, where they're not adventures, but they're kind of dilemma. Like Hooky or like Mr. Worm, kind of like Seinfeld always stays in the contained set of his apartment, of Seinfeld's apartment, and a couple of other locations like the coffee shop, but you never have these adventures. They're just interactions there. Maybe sometimes you're solving a dilemma. But SpongeBob has that, as well as it has a lot of adventures. Take the conch shell episode, take pizza delivery. So you have a good balance of these two, and I think I want to explore that a little bit. So let's take a look at Unidentified Flailing Octopus. Unidentified Flailing Octopus is obviously a play on words for unidentified flying object, and it's basically basically very similar to the concept of, I believe it's called SB-149. It's the one with Squidward has like the future. Basically an unidentified flailing octopus. It starts with SpongeBob and Patrick looking for aliens because they were basically convinced by a guy on TV that aliens exist. So they go searching for one. Squidward ends up finding one, getting abducted. Then the entirety of the episode is just examples of the aliens and him bantering back and forth, him trying to escape, and them probing him. And then they just abruptly end it with no proper writing or resolution at all. You can even tell that they had no clue how to end it too. So they introduced a new storyline, which is a little therapy session between the aliens and him. It was the stupidest thing ever. He starts complaining about his mom and they throw him out. And then the entire episode just ends. So basically, you have this short setup, this short storyline. It starts off with SpongeBob and Patrick looking for aliens. Squidward finds one. That all happens within the first 2 minutes. And then the rest of the entirety of the episode is, like I said, you have this general storyline and then example and then example and then example. This happened, and then this happened, then this happened. There is no but, there is no therefore. Obviously, the entire concept for the episode is an adventure. Squidward gets abducted and he's trying to make it back to his homeland. It's an adventure. Contrast it with SB-149. Squidward does the exact same thing. It's funny because you contrast the two episodes, and basically how it happens is that SpongeBob and Patrick end up searching for aliens, or they end up trying to hang out with Squidward. And in SB-149, Squidward ends up trying to escape them and goes back in time, and then he lives this whole adventure out, and then he comes back and they don't believe that he actually did. Similarly, Squidward gets abducted by aliens, goes on this big thing, and then he comes back and SpongeBob and Patrick don't believe that he actually saw aliens. It's the exact same format, but you can see exactly how the storytelling completely changes between the two. Unidentified flailing octopus has this, then this, then this, then this, then this, then this, and that's it. That's it. There's not really any real conflict. It's just this, then this. But in SB-149, it's this, but this, then this, but this. It's the exact same concept, but just terribly executed. So there you have it. We contrasted 3 pairs of episodes between old episodes and new episodes. In every single one of the old episodes won out over the new episode. SpongeBob has completely died, and I'm not, I'm complaining because that really sucks, but I'm gonna be able to go back at any point and watch the old episodes, and that's okay because I still will. SpongeBob is still the same SpongeBob that we knew, just the newer seasons is a different SpongeBob. You can still avoid it, but the fact of the matter is SpongeBob was an amazing show, and it will never disappear off the face of this. It'll still forever be a part of our childhood. We can always return to it. If you enjoy this video, please subscribe so that I can show my parents by the time that I graduate that I'm not a complete failure. I would like that. I would like that very much. I don't want to be a failure, and I really don't want to have to work a 9 to 5 and try to balance this at the same time, because I surely can't please you guys while doing that. I just do not have enough time, and I just cannot grow as a YouTuber when I'm working a 9 to 5 either. So give me limited time that I have to do that. On April 27th, I turn 18. That's my birthday, so if you want to send me a present, go ahead. And then after that, I am hoping to make this whole YouTube thing work out so that I don't have to like scramble in life trying to, I don't want to be a starving artist is basically what I'm saying. And I think if I keep growing as a YouTuber and as a person, I think I'm capable of getting there, but I can't do it without pestering you guys to subscribe. So subscribe, and why not share it with a friend so that they can see my extremely sexy face. Okay, bye.